Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up now about Von Miller's first press conference with the Commanders media was today. So we talked about him. There's a story up on ESPN.com. Give it a read. I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about that just for a minute before I get into the daily practice report. One update on the stadium, the DC Council has basically signed off on the parameters of the deal. Now they're basically done negotiating. Now they're going to have some hearings with the community. Then there's the first scheduled vote is August 1st. I think I told you the other day that I expected a vote within a couple weeks. That's where we're at right now. So they still have to approve it. Folks, as Mayor Bowser said the other day on my podcast, it's at the 1 yard line. And I definitely think it is. And the question I always had was it first and goal or fourth and goal? Folks, I think it's first and goal. So I think they're going to push it across. That's the feeling. That's been always the feeling. Shoot, even back in like late in the spring, when I was talking to some of the DC council members, even some who were against the deal, they all felt it would pass at that point. So now that they're in a better spot, now that some people have been either granted some concessions or, gotten some things clarified, they're in a good spot. Again, August 1st will be the first time they vote on it. And I just have to say, it's pretty damn optimistic that they're getting back to RFK. So just wanted to let you know on that. So let's get to the practice report for July 24th. Here we go. Let's start with Von Miller. Well, first of all, it was a humid day. And one of the things that Dan Quinn is going to do throughout this camp is when the heat index is at a certain level, they're probably going to push practice up from 9 a.m. to 8 a.m. just to get ahead of the heat and get some better work in. So actually on Friday, they will be going an hour earlier. I don't mind it. I know there's some reporters who may not be crazy about having to show up here around 7 a.m. And I know some of you saying big deal, that's the time you go to work. I'm up pretty damn early, so I will be okay. I'll be here. So they're starting tomorrow earlier. Now you know. But they're going to do it just as a nod to the heat when it gets really bad. And Friday is supposed to get up to, I think, in the 90s and pretty humid. So that's why they're going to do that. Anyway, speaking of practice, like Von Miller, Laramie Tunsil, and Noah Brown all had Veterans Days off. Now, obviously, Noah Brown recovering from the injury. Dan Quinn said today that they would maybe, take it easy with him. Like the goal, he's coming off a lacerated kidney. Like you don't want to push him too hard. But with Miller and with Tunsil, one of the things we know with Dan Quinn, he's very good and very intentional about giving those guys vets days off because the goal is not to have him ready for right now. It's to have him ready for September and keep him through into January and maybe even February. That's the trick with any of these guys with 17 games. You want to keep them healthy and durable. And you have guys like Tunsil and Miller who have been through the wars before here in the NFL. They know how to take care of themselves. That's why they do this. So something that he does and et cetera. One of the things I forgot to tell you about on Wednesday, and you know that when they signed Miller, I kind of liken him to he's their Mariano Rivera, their closer. So on Wednesday in practice, what song did Rivera always enter into with New York? Enter Sandman. What song did I hear playing one time when Miller was on the field in a pass rush situation? Enter Sandman. He did not win on the rush, but that is indicative of how they see him as a closer. So we did get to talk to Miller, and one of the things he said, why he chose the Commanders. Now, I was told that there were 3 teams in the end that Miller was choosing between, one of which, of course, was Washington. As he said, you don't leave Josh Allen and just go anywhere. He wants to win. He feels like this place has a good chance to win. I also think Dan Quinn's reputation helps. And also like Adam Peters, he knew him from Denver. And he also brought up the fact that he met with him at the Combine a couple of years ago when Peters was in San Francisco because he wants to become a general manager one day. So he wanted to pick Peters' brain about just whatever he had gone through. And so the familiarity plus I think the, Jaden Daniels absolutely helped. And there you go. And as he said, he can still roll out of bed and rush the passer. He wants to win. He said he's all about winning. A lot of wisdom there with him. And I think that's one of the things you notice in his game. And that's one thing that Dan Quinn would talk about. And even Von Miller said, maybe he's not as twitchy as he was when he was younger physically, mentally, he feels he's just as twitchy as he ever was And that allows him to still play at a certain speed because that's how you rush the passer. So he may not bend the corner the same way he used to, because it used to be incredible, but maybe he's still better than what a lot of people are able to do it. And that's what you see on film. And I think it's what they're hoping to see throughout the season. But that wisdom definitely helps. And you see it with the counter moves and all that. He's very much a thoughtful pass rusher, in addition to having the talent that he has had. Anyways, here's a little snippet of what he had to say during his press conference.
Yeah, it was extremely intentional coming here. You just can't leave Josh Allen and go anywhere, man. You just can't go from, the AFC Championship and just, go anywhere. I feel, whenever you get older too, losses, they like pile up. It seems like they just hit way harder than what they used to when you were young. And this team is all about winning. I'm all about winning. Whatever it takes to win, I'm gonna do. That's on and off the football field. There's nothing like winning. There's nothing like the locker room. There's nothing like coming in here and talking to you guys after a win. It's all good after a win. So that's why I'm here, is to win. And understand that the goal is to win them all, but in reality, we're gonna have some struggles and gonna have some adversity. That's all good too, because sometimes, well, most of the time, adversity reveals character, and it's all good medicine at the end of the day, and it'll all just feed back into the main goal, and that's the win. So this team is all about winning. I'm all about winning, and it was a good marriage.
What did you hear from?
So getting back to practice, they went about an hour and a half of practice time on Thursday. That's about 15 minutes longer than what they did on Wednesday. One of the things I talked about on Wednesday was a drill with the defensive linemen where they rush up. They have a coach with some arm pads on. They make a move based on how where he holds his arm and all that. And it's a quick drill. So I just wanted to play a little bit of a video from that part that, so you can enjoy that. There you go. And I like the juice that drill adds. Anyway, practice, I thought on day one was very crisp. I know in talking to some coaches, they did not feel it was as crisp today, but there are some they don't mind that. One thing that this staff is they embrace the situation they're in. Like, you're losing a couple games in a row. Okay, hey, this sucks, but take this as a chance to get better. Take this as a chance to learn. I think one of the things they like when it's a sloppier day of practice is, how do guys respond? How do they respond in practice? How do they handle it? I think you can learn a lot if you want to in any situation. And that's kind of what it was today. There was, whether it was blown assignments, some, route mishaps, whatever. For example, in the 7-on-7, saw Marcus Mariota a lot of times running and not throwing the ball. And I'm not pinning that necessarily on him, because you don't know. It could be a function of guys not running the right routes or whatever the reason was. Anyways, just not as crisp as it was the day before. But again, you get a chance to learn about some of that. One thing I also like in talking to guys, there's some really smart players in this team who are backups, and Jeremy Reeves is one of them. I think he's a guy, when you have guys like that who is a backup, but one of the things that you can do, and I think they're trying to see if Tyler Owens can do this as well, is you can play multiple roles. So you can put him, can you cover in the slot? Can you play in a weak side linebacker role in some coverage situations, some packages that give you a chance to them, if you have to rotate back, now if there's certain movements, you can handle that because of your skill set. So they're testing that with him, but he can do that because of how smart he is. And there are some plays he made where he's now learned over the years how to set up a quarterback. Just if you see a certain formation and if it's a 3-by-1, what they're going to do. Maybe you cheat a little bit the other way, knowing it's going to kind of con the quarterback to go into this one route. So you cheat, but then you automatically take off to that backside receiver and break up a play, which is what Reeves has done. When you have that, when you're going against some of the backup players or the quarterbacks, and especially in the season when you're on doing the scout team, that helps a lot. Like he did that one time to Jaden Daniels, and Daniels spent, a little while after practice or after the play or after that series talking to Jeremy Reese to pick that stuff up. So I just think it's a benefit to have guys like that, even if he doesn't play a ton from scrimmage. I mean, clearly as a special teams guy, he's very, very good, but also from the standpoint of you have something else to contribute when you're not playing from scrimmage because of that just in practice. By the way, they are moving Tyler Owens around. They're not, he's a safety, but they're playing him in different roles. So you see him up in the slot. You will see him in multiple spots in the secondary, playing, with a safety and maybe in some linebacker roles in certain coverage or in certain packages. They're just trying to see, can he handle that? Because I don't think there's any doubt about the physical tools he has, what he's going to have to get through because he doesn't have as much experience playing. I think with him, be patient, whatever he does this year. I think it's a process. I could see him being a guy who takes a few years to really hit his stride and then really takes off once that all snaps into place. Will it happen this summer? I don't know. But that's the thing that they're going to be looking for is to see how he handles this, how he develops, and not just physically, but in terms of the mental aspect of the game. That is listen, man, you talk to players like that's the number one thing. You can see all the skill you want or the talent you want, but if you don't have it mentally, you're just not going to make plays or you're not going to help a team. So that's where, again, with Owens, doesn't have as much experience. So once he's able to get all that down, combined with the skills that he has, now you have something really good. It's funny because I talked to players. I was talking to Sean Springs on the sideline today about some guys in the past who had some of that ability, but maybe they didn't have the, I don't want to say they didn't get it from a football perspective, right? In terms of like how to processing and all that. So there are guys that he played with, remember in Adi Jamo, they was one of those guys, all sorts of talent, but did you get it quite to the level you need to match that talent? When you do, you've got a hell of a player. So that's something to watch with Owens as he moves forward is how he handles all that. At what point does he get it? And then what does it look like? So anyway, all right. So another thing, Josh Connolly was with the starting offensive line today at right tackle. Not a surprise. Well, not a surprise because Dan Quinn told us before practice that's what's going to happen because they're trying to see like who can win that job. He's competing with Andrew Wiley. Obviously, at some point, Connolly's going to be the starter. They're not going to hand it to him. So they're going to rotate. And also today with Tunsil out, Andrew Wiley was at the left side, so working as a swing tackle. So there you go. And then Nick Allegretti, right guard during those drills, but also before practice, when you have the quarterbacks just taking they'll take like shotgun snaps from the center, and then, just throw the ball, whatever. It's just like a warm-up drill with the center. Well, Nick Allegretti was doing that as well. And I think there are some who think he could be a solid center if he needed to be, but if nothing else, a very good backup at guard and center. Folks, I know I've talked about him in the spring. I try to stay away from all the time, but rookie Trey Amos is going to be a really good corner. Like, and again, I was talking to Springs about him, but like, he's going to be really good. And I think it's, whether it's the level of Jaden Daniels, I think he's been impressive every time I've seen him. Like, there doesn't ever seem to be a time where he looks lost or a time where he lacks confidence. Like, he plays confident, but he also plays with wisdom. He plays very patient. That's the number one word you hear from him is patience. Watch his footwork. When you get a chance to watch him in spring training, the preseason, in games, watch the footwork of the line. He's not going to react until he needs to, until you make your break. That's what he does. He's also really good with his jams. He can play man, he can play zone, good length. One of the things I liked today, there was one route, I think it was against Debo. Yeah, it was. And he jams him he's on the left side, jams with the left hand on the outside shoulder. And Debo tries to run a slant. He cuts him inside. He's not cutting inside, but he played to the help on this one because the linebacker starts to cheat over. It takes the slant away. Quarterback has to look elsewhere. But I really like how he's developing. I mean, like I said, very patient, very confident, and I think he's very smooth. He's going to be fun to watch develop. It's why that corner position is so much better, regardless of what if Lattimore comes through, it could be a really good position for them because you also have Mike Samerstill. Noah Igbenogany has played well in the first couple of games, for a couple of practices. Now he's not right now. He's going against backups, but he looks solid and he did a nice job for them last year, Jonathan Jones. So they are much better at that. And Kayvon Seymour had a nice play today, a couple nice plays today. Could be a good special teams player. I don't know if he can make it. It depends on how many corners they keep, but they're in a much better spot at corner in large part because of Amos. And then if Lattimore's healthy, and even if not, they're still in better shape than I think they were last year. Stefan Kinlaw, they are moving him around, which you would expect. And one of the things I talked about shortly after they signed was, would he play end? Would he play tackle? I told you one of the things that I know they like him inside. That's where he's primarily going to be in a base setting. However, when he does move outside, it's when they play their 3 defensive tackle set. So he would be more of an end in that alignment. And that's something I think to watch, like how he's a big fella, man. Like that's the one thing that it just jumps off the page how big he is. Now, the one thing when you come with that size, 6'5", especially rushing inside, is there a tendency to get a little bit too upright? And you saw that sometimes on film. That's part of where if he could be more consistent in that, I think it would help him. But there was one run today, whereas in that big package is the end where he gets a little bit upright. I don't know if he's looking for the ball, he sees it and he gets upright, and then it allows the lineman to control him. That's something to me that just pay attention to that, see how he develops with that. Because that's been something that you've seen with his other teams, but does he get out of that? The more experience he has, the more, can they get him out of that? And then what does it look like? But man, is he big inside, and it's going to be something certainly to watch and see how that unfolds there. They did work on a lot of pressure, especially early on. First pass they brought some pressure. Second pass, they brought some pressure. It forces Jayden Daniels got to get rid of the ball quick. And he does. So there you go. They also have been using a lot of no huddle, folks. First 3 days, a lot of no huddle. And it's funny because one of the reasons I think they can practice a little bit in shorter time, one, because they're crisp, 2, because they run a lot of plays because of the no huddle. Like you're not wasting time in the huddle. You're not wasting time getting up to the huddle and having maybe a coach yell at you to get back on the huddle and do it again, or get up to the line again quicker and get in the huddle, blah, blah, blah. They're not doing any of that. So they're going quick at a quick pace. It's why Deebo Samuel's trainer said he really worked hard to get Deebo into position, not just for the season, but to run this kind of an offense. Because listen, man, back in that Donovan McNabb, the Shanahans felt like he didn't have the conditioning to run their 2-minute. I think he'd have been in trouble in this one if that was the case. So, but again, a lot of no huddle. And if you're wondering about the quarterbacks, you have obviously Jaden and Mariota, and then Sam Hartman has been working as number 3. Josh Johnson has been the number 4. So Hartman's been getting third, whatever reps go to the third quarterback, it's usually like 1 or 2 in these series. He's been doing that. And I tell you, his timing's pretty good. He knows the offense, and I think that helps him. You see him getting rid of the ball usually on time. Doesn't have a rocket arm, but he's getting the ball out. And it's funny because I was talking with Bram about Jayden Daniels, and he does look stronger for sure. And what's that do for his arm strength? I don't know if he has better arm strength, but I do think he gets rid of the ball at a good pace. And he has arm talent. And I'll get into that in a minute, but I do think that's a strength of his, is the arm talent. That's quick decision, quick reaction. And if you're doing it on time, you're doing it right, then it's going to look like your arm that you can have a good arm. So anyway, you Ja'Cory Brooks fans made a couple catches the first couple of days. Settle down. I don't know what that means. There are a lot of receivers in camp, but he has caught the ball a couple of times, against some of the starters. So good start, but it's not been a ton. Couple passes, deep breath, relax. But good start for him. The one thing I will say about that receiver group is there is a lot of competition there, because when Terry McLaurin comes in, and at some point he will play for this team, you have him, you have Deebo, you have Luke McCaffrey, who's had a nice start, really good against zone coverage. He and Zach Ertz, really good against zone coverage. You also have Jaylen Lane, right? He's going to be there. Noah Brown, got to stay healthy, but he's a big help when he does. Then you have guys like Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, Chris Moore, another veteran. How do they look? And I think Gallup has had done a couple nice things today. Saw him have a good catch and quick turn up the field. Like he got the ball to the outside, just a quick turn. And that's makes the difference between a 5-yard catch and a 15-yard catch. And that one, the defensive back got caught a little bit inside, but that quick turn got him a lot of extra yards for sure. Also had a nice catch on a wide throw by Hartman, but just a good grab along the sidelines. So that's been good for him. And with Chris Morris. He did beat Marshon Lattimore one time. It looked like there was some confusion on the coverage by Lattimore on the play. Took him inside. He cuts back outside, and then he let him go up top, but there was no one rotating over. So I'm not sure exactly what happened. He kind of looked back. Lattimore looked back. It may have been he's supposed to stay with him. I don't know, but a good job by Moore. Now, there was another time they threw a fade to, or I think it was a fade or a corner in the end zone to Moore, and Lattimore was right there and took him away. I think that's what it was. Yeah. Anyway, but it was a good job by Lattimore on the play. With Lattimore, I do think you're seeing more the ability to drive on the ball. The one thing I wonder with him is, as he gets more comfortable with, feeling back to himself, but also with the defense, you obviously want to drive. And there's sometimes I wonder, will they try to use that aggressiveness at times against you, with a little slant and goes and some double moves on him, because he is focused really hard on driving. And that's something I want to see, but he does drive on the ball better than he did last year. Mikey Samerstill, again, good start by him, and broke up a pass at the goal line. Also had another time where it's a little bit of a switch route, got a little bit of late jump on it, but and the ball was thrown too far to the outside. He's right there. Samerstill has it, but it's the ball surprised him, falls to the ground, drop, but that's okay. I think he's just shocked that the ball landed right where it did. Samerstill, one of the things I like about him, he plays bigger than he is. And that's one reason why they could put him at the outside corner and survive last year with him out there. Now, it helps inside against Deebo Samuel. And I saw this again today. Deebo tried to body him. He did not allow it to happen. Samuel still competes, and you see it in that. Like, there's the time we're talking about, like Samuel takes him inside, but he is right on him, and Samuel could not shake him. And it was just a good job by Samuel, but that's what he does. Jaylen Lane. So one of the things you notice about him, again, that quickness. So this is more of a drill, special teams drill. See what happens during games, but in a special teams drill. So they do this warm up. They'll have like guys back around the 35, 40 yard, like basically simulating catching a punt, or it certainly looks like a punt drill. And they'll have two big, like almost like big hula hoops on either side, and they have three guys running around, and they just throw the ball out. They punt the ball to whomever's back there, and these guys they're running around and they got to turn and go down. So you're trying to simulate the craziness of the punt coverage or coverage units in general. So on the one that I was able to watch Lane, Samerstill was part of the group. He sprints downfield, but as soon as Lane catches the ball, he's off. Like, it's a quick first step. And I think it's one of the things, like, they talk about him being fearless, but also that quick first step will also help him get some yards. But that's what I saw there, and they did not get a good angle on him because of that. All right, this is the last couple notes here. Will Harris looks like, has been solid so far, done a nice job against Zach Ertz. There were a couple times that Ertz, I think, got some balls, again, sitting in the zone. That's what he does well. Same with McCaffrey. Talked about Jaden Daniels, the quick arm talent. That. We've seen it. But it's not like I'm never going to talk about it in practice, because there's still things that he does that are impressive. And there was one where he threw to the back of the end zone where it's just a boom, quick delivery. Like, you see the pocket is being condensed, it's shrinking, and you're in trouble. Boom, there it is. You see it, you go, and you avoid the sack, and you get the touchdown. So there was one other time where he made a play. I did not count it because he would have been sacked in play. I think Dorrance Armstrong got around Connolly on that play. So anyways, and Connolly, if it wasn't that play, Armstrong got him on an earlier play. And I also, by the way, Armstrong rushing inside, I really like. I think that's going to be a good thing for them. That's something he did a lot of in Dallas, maybe not quite as much last year, but I think it's going to be a big part of their game this year, because you have that versatility. You have that, and that's something Dan Quinn talked about, is the ability to do that. That's something that Armstrong offers. You can put him next to a Luvu, next to a Jacob Martin, or have Martin on the other side. So it's a way to just get different kind of pass rushes in the game. Von Miller, going back to Von Miller, one of the things he talked about is in his role as a situational guy, the hard part is to, before he's used to setting guys up. I'm going to set you up in the first quarter. I'm going to go back to this in the third quarter, but it's going to look different. I'm going to set you up this way, show this, and get to that. That's something he doesn't have. So now he said he's like a 3-point shooter in the NBA, just coming off the bench, and your job is to go in there and shoot. That's what he can do. And I bring that up because I was going to point out like Martin and Luvu, and then you have Luvu and Miller, but you can use Martin in certain situations to help save Miller for the winning time moments in the fourth quarter. That's one of the things Frankie Louvu talked about, is just like the juice that Miller can bring in those winning time moments. But anyway, back to Jayden Daniels. The other thing I liked that he did, there was a really nice run check. And again, this is when the benefits of standing next to a guy like Sean Springs. So we watch the play, checks the play, and then he runs, and the run goes the other side, and a really nice run, a good open run for Kaz Allen. So on the play, there was a 3-by-1 look. And Daniel sees the coverage, knows it's man, so he calls for a back to go in motion. It draws a linebacker away and puts him in a bad position, so the backside blocker can take him out, and now you got Allen with the run. So it just takes the linebacker out of the play and does a good job. But it was a really good, mature check by Jayden Daniels. But it's something that's playing the position. That's not just being an athlete, which he's never just been, but that is playing the position. So anyways, folks, there you go. That's my wrap up for day 2 from training camp. I'll be back with another episode on Friday. So, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you this. Don't forget, Huel. I have my Huel Black Edition training camp early morning practices. Awesome to have. Little bit of rice. You know I like the strawberry banana and chocolate. 40 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals. Do yourself a favor. Go to Huel.com. Use my code KEIM, K-E-I-M. 15% off for new customers. Read the terms and conditions, but check it out, folks, Huel.com. That's it for today. I'll talk to you next time.